Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
Cousin planned to marry my girlfriend, steal everything, and vanish. I made sure the FBI appear. I was just a marine biologist tagging sharks, but when I discovered the betrayal, I became the predator. She stole our savings. He planned to marry her, drain her accounts, and vanish. So I launched Operation Hammerhead, a revenge plan so perfect, the FBI showed up before they said, "I do." Keep watching to see how I turned their wedding into the most viral takedown in Miami. Before we begin, let me know where you're tuning in from down in the comments. And if you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next tale. The morning sun painted the Florida Keys in shades of gold and turquoise as Curtis adjusted his diving mask one final time. 60 feet below, a school of hammerhead sharks circled in their ancient dance, their shadows cutting through the crystal-clear water like dark promises. He'd been tracking this particular pod for 3 months now, documenting their migration patterns for his research at the Miami Marine Institute. "Baby, are you getting this? Oh my God, this is insane." Amber's voice crackled through his earpiece, high-pitched with excitement. "My followers are going to die when they see this footage." Curtis couldn't help but smile despite the regulator in his mouth. Even after 3 years together, Amber's enthusiasm for his work still surprised him. Most women found his obsession with sharks either terrifying or boring. But Amber? She'd turned it into content gold, building her travel influencer empire around their adventures together. He surfaced slowly, following proper decompression protocols, and found Amber leaning precariously over the boat's edge, her iPhone mounted on a professional gimbal, her platinum blonde hair whipped in the salt breeze, and her designer bikini, a gift from some swimwear sponsor, gleamed against her spray-tanned skin. "Did you get the shot with the biggest one? The one with the scar?" She helped him aboard, her manicured nails scraping against his wetsuit. "I'm thinking of calling this series Swimming with Death. Too dramatic." "Way too dramatic," Curtis laughed, peeling off his mask. "These hammerheads are less dangerous than crossing Ocean Drive during Art Basel." She pouted, already scrolling through her footage. "You scientists have no sense of marketing. This is why I have 2 million followers and you have, what, 3,000 marine biology nerds?" 3,012, actually, he corrected, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "And one of them is doing groundbreaking research on shark conservation." Groundbreaking," she murmured, but her attention was already elsewhere, fingers flying across her phone screen. "Oh, Wesley just texted. He's throwing a yacht party tomorrow night. Some huge DJ from Ibiza is flying in. We have to go." Curtis felt the familiar twist in his stomach at his cousin's name, Wesley, the golden boy of the family with his waterfront penthouse and his residency at Live nightclub, the one who'd somehow turned pushing buttons on a DJ console into millions of dollars, while Curtis spent years in grad school studying actual science. "I've got to analyze today's data," he started, but Amber was already planning her outfit in her head. "You always have data to analyze. Come on, when's the last time we went out? Really went out?" She spun in his arms, her green eyes sparkling with that mixture of affection and frustration he'd been seeing more often lately. "Sometimes I feel like I'm dating a submarine. You spend more time underwater than with me." "That's not true. Curtis, baby, I love what you do, I really do, but we're in Miami, the most exciting city in the world, and all you want to do is swim with fish." "They're not fish, they're—" I know. "Cartilaginous vertebrates." She kissed him quickly, tasting of coconut lip gloss and salt spray. "See? I do listen. Now can we please go to Wesley's party? I already told my followers we'd be there." He should have recognized the signs then. The way she lit up when she talked about Wesley's world, the parties, the celebrities, the endless nights of champagne and bass drops. The way she'd started calling his research swimming with fish instead of the work that had earned him recognition from the National Science Foundation. But love is a kind of decompression sickness too. Rise too fast from its depths and you'll get the bends. "Fine," he conceded, "but I'm not staying past midnight. I've got an early dive tomorrow." "Midnight?" She laughed, already typing a response to Wesley. "Baby, the party doesn't even start until midnight." As Curtis guided their boat back toward Key Largo, Amber chatted excitedly about what she'd wear, which other influencers would be there, how many story posts she could milk from one party. He half listened, his mind still 60 feet below with the hammerheads, unaware that in just 3 weeks, his carefully ordered world would shatter like coral hitting concrete. The first crack had already formed, invisible as a hairline fracture in a diving tank. Wesley had been texting Amber for months now. Not just party invites, morning messages, late-night memes, inside jokes Curtis didn't understand. "Your cousin's hilarious," she'd say, showing him some video of Wesley crowd surfing at Ultra or popping champagne with some rapper Curtis didn't recognize. "Yeah," Curtis would reply, trying not to think about how Wesley had always taken what wasn't his. Toys when they were kids. Credit for Curtis's science fair project in 8th grade. His high school girlfriend, though that had hurt less than this slow, invisible drift. "Oh, and baby," Amber called over the engine noise as they approached the marina. "Wesley says he might have a brand deal for me. Some new champagne company wants to sponsor content creators. Isn't that amazing?" "Amazing," Curtis echoed, securing the boat to the dock. In the distance, a dorsal fin broke the surface, probably a bull shark hunting in the shallows. They were ambush predators, patient and calculating. They'd circle their prey for hours, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Curtis wouldn't realize until later that he'd been circled too. The predator just wore designer clothes and played electronic music instead of having fins. 3 weeks later, Curtis sat in his cluttered office at the Marine Institute, staring at his computer screen in disbelief. The GPS tracker on Amber's Gucci bag, the one he'd installed after she'd lost it twice at beach clubs, showed her at Wesley's South Beach penthouse. Again. "Brand meeting," she'd texted him 2 hours ago. "Might run late. Don't wait up." The same excuse she'd used last Tuesday and the Friday before that. Curtis minimized the tracking app, feeling like a creep for even checking it. Trust, his mother had always said, was the foundation of any relationship. But trust was harder to maintain when your girlfriend's Instagram stories showed her at business meetings wearing cocktail dresses and Jimmy Choos. His phone buzzed. Henry's face appeared on the screen, flour dusting his dark beard. "You busy?" his best friend asked without preamble. "I need a taste tester for tonight's special." "Can't. Amber's at another meeting." Henry's expression shifted, that careful look he got when he wanted to say something but wasn't sure he should. They'd known each other since undergrad, when Henry was a pre-med student who'd shocked everyone by dropping out to attend culinary school instead. "Another meeting with Wesley's people?" "Yeah." Curtis tried to keep his voice neutral. "Some champagne brand." "Right." Henry wiped his hands on his apron. "Listen, man, I don't want to start anything, but Sophia saw something weird on TikTok last night." Curtis's stomach tightened. Sophia was Henry's sous chef and social media manager, a 23-year-old who lived her entire life online. "What kind of weird?" "Someone posted a video from that new club in the design district, Komodo or whatever. Your girl was there with Wesley. They're working together on this brand deal, Curtis." Henry's voice was gentle but firm. She was sitting on his lap. The words hit like a physical blow. Curtis gripped his phone tighter, knuckles white. Maybe it was just crowded. You know how those VIP sections get. "Maybe." Henry didn't sound convinced. "Look, I'll send you the link. But maybe you should talk to her." After Henry hung up, Curtis stared at the link for a full minute before clicking it. The video was shaky, obviously filmed by someone drunk, but there was no mistaking Amber's platinum hair or the distinctive tattoo on her shoulder blade, the one Curtis had held her hand through getting last year. She was indeed on Wesley's lap, his arm around her waist, her head thrown back in laughter at something he'd whispered in her ear. The timestamp showed 3:47 a.m. She'd told Curtis she'd been asleep by midnight, tired from all those meetings. His hands shook as he opened Instagram, using the trick Sophia had taught him to see Amber's drafts folder. He'd felt guilty when she'd first showed him how something about a glitch in the system that let you view unpublished posts if you knew the right combination of clicks. But guilt evaporated as he scrolled through dozens of photos. Amber and Wesley on a yacht he didn't recognize. Amber and Wesley at what looked like a private jet terminal. Amber wearing a Cartier bracelet Curtis definitely hadn't bought her, Wesley's tattooed hand visible on her thigh. The worst part was the caption she'd written and abandoned. "When he gets you, my king of the night. Some secrets are worth keeping." Curtis slammed his laptop shut, breathing hard. "Think like a scientist," he told himself. "Gather data. Form a hypothesis. Test it." He reopened the laptop and started digging deeper. Credit card statements. When had Amber gotten her own card? Their joint account showed charges at restaurants he'd never been to, hotels they'd never stayed at. A flight to Ibiza 2 months ago, when she'd told him she was at a yoga retreat in Bali. "Working on my chakras," she'd said via FaceTime, the background carefully curated to show only white walls and green plants. He'd been stupid enough to believe her, even when she'd quickly ended calls because of meditation sessions. His phone buzzed, a message from his research partner asking about tomorrow's dive. Curtis ignored it, lost in a rabbit hole of deception. Amber's tagged locations on Instagram didn't match where she'd told him she'd been. The yoga retreat in Bali, the geotag showed Ibiza, the brand meeting in Orlando, Miami Beach every time. By the time the sun set over Biscayne Bay, Curtis had compiled enough evidence to convict in any court. But the final blow came from an unexpected source, Freddie Parsons, a paparazzi photographer who hung around the marina, hoping to catch celebrities on their yachts. "Dr. Curtis," Freddie called out as Curtis headed to his car. "Hey man, weird question. Your lady's Amber Laurent, right? The influencer?" Curtis nodded warily. Freddie was harmless but annoying, always trying to get gossip about the wealthy boat owners. "Thought so. Look, I got these shots in Monaco last month. Was gonna sell them to TMZ, but then I realized one of them was your cousin Wesley. Family's family, right? Figured I'd check with you first." He pulled out his camera, scrolling through images on the LCD screen. Curtis's blood turned to ice water. Amber and Wesley on a yacht in Monte Carlo, kissing by the pool. Her hands in his hair. His hands everywhere. "How much?" Curtis heard himself ask. "For family? Let's say $5,000 and I delete everything." Curtis paid him from the emergency fund he kept for boat repairs. As Freddie walked away, whistling and counting his cash, Curtis sat in his car staring at the photos he'd just bought. The timestamp showed 3 weeks ago, the same day he'd successfully tagged his 100th shark, a milestone he'd wanted to celebrate with Amber. She'd been stuck in meetings in Los Angeles. He drove home on autopilot, his scientific mind already cataloging the evidence, the fancy dinners, the Cartier bracelet, the secret trips, and underneath it all, a more sinister realization. The $50,000 missing from their joint savings. The account they'd opened for their future, their wedding, their life together. She'd invested it in Wesley's record label, without asking, without telling him. Curtis pulled into his driveway, surprised to see Amber's white Mercedes already there. She was home early for once. He sat in his car for a moment, engine off, listening to the suburban quiet of their Coral Gables neighborhood. Inside, he could hear her on the phone, her voice carrying through the open window. "Told you he doesn't suspect anything. Curtis is too sweet for his own good. He trusts me completely." Wesley's voice, tinny through her speakerphone. "Good. Keep it that way for 3 more weeks. After the wedding, we can stop pretending." "I still can't believe you proposed," Amber giggled. "At your own DJ set. So romantic." "You deserve the best, baby. Not some fish nerd who smells like seaweed." Curtis's hands gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles ached. "Wedding? Proposed?" "I should go," Amber said. "He'll be home soon. Love you." "Love you too. Future Mrs. Wesley Danes." Curtis waited 5 minutes before going inside, using the time to school his expression into something neutral. Amber was in the kitchen making a smoothie, wearing one of his old Marine Institute t-shirts and nothing else. "Hey, baby!" She bounced over to kiss him. "How was your day? Catch any sharks?" "Tagged 3 bulls near Key Biscayne," he replied automatically. "How was your meeting?" "Oh, you know, boring brand stuff." She turned back to the blender. "But Wesley thinks we're close to a deal." "That's great." Curtis watched her move around their kitchen, this woman he'd loved for 3 years, this stranger wearing his shirt. "Hey, I was thinking, we should take a trip. Just the 2 of us. Maybe Bimini? We could swim with the hammerheads there." Her smile faltered for just a second. Oh, baby, I'd love to, but the next few weeks are crazy. Maybe after... She caught herself. Maybe next month? Sure, Curtis said. Next month. He kissed her forehead and headed to the shower, pulling out his phone once the water was running. He scrolled to a text from 3 days ago, one he'd ignored at the time. A wedding invitation, elegant and minimalist. Wesley Danes and Amber Laurent request the honor of your presence. The wedding was in 3 weeks, at the Vizcaya Museum, under the stars theme. Curtis let the hot water run over his face, washing away any trace of tears. 3 weeks. He had 3 weeks to plan something special for his cousin's wedding. After all, family should always come first. The Vizcaya Museum gleamed in the afternoon sun as Curtis stood at the entrance, holding the wedding invitation that had arrived by courier that morning. Not just any invitation, a special delivery with a handwritten note from Wesley. "Cuz, I know this might be weird, but you're family. I need you there. Actually, I was hoping you'd be my best man. We've had our differences, but blood is blood, right? WDW." Curtis crumpled the note, then smoothed it out again. The audacity was breathtaking, but also perfect. Being the best man would give him access to everything. His phone rang. Unknown number. "Dr. Curtis Fox?" A woman's voice, professional and crisp. "Yes? My name is Veronica Chen. I'm a private investigator. I understand you've been asking questions about Wesley Danes." Curtis's pulse quickened. He'd reached out to several PIs online last night, not expecting such a quick response. "I might be. I have information you'll want to see. Can you meet me at Bayfront Park in an hour?" Veronica Chen turned out to be a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, wearing a linen suit despite the Miami humidity. She handed him a thick folder without preamble. "Your cousin has been busy," she said. 3 engagements in 5 years, all broken when the women discovered his debts. He owes $200,000 to the Bratva. That's Russian mafia, if you're wondering. Curtis flipped through the pages. Bank statements, photos, police reports. "He's washing money through his DJ gigs," Veronica continued. "Takes dirty cash as appearance fees, pays it out clean to shell companies. Your girlfriend's investment in his record label? That money's already gone. Can you prove it?" "Everything's in there. But Dr. Fox, these are dangerous people. Whatever you're planning, I'm not planning anything," Curtis lied smoothly. "Just wanted to know what my cousin was up to before I agreed to be his best man." Veronica studied him for a long moment. "Sure. Just remember, revenge is a dish best served cold, and legally." As she walked away, Curtis's phone buzzed. "Henry. You need to get to the marina. Now." Curtis found Henry on his yacht, the one he'd bought after his restaurant earned its first Michelin star. But Henry wasn't alone. A woman in a flight suit sat across from him, her dark hair pulled back in a tight bun, hazel eyes sharp as broken glass. "Curtis, meet Aurora," Henry said. "She has something you need to hear." Aurora stood, extending a hand. Her grip was firm, calloused. "Aurora Vega. I fly rescue choppers for the Coast Guard. Also happen to be Xavier Vega's daughter." Xavier Vega. Curtis knew the name owned half the marinas from Key West to Palm Beach. "Your cousin's been banned from every yacht club my father owns," Aurora continued. "Owes about 50 grand in dock fees and damages. But that's not why I'm here." She pulled out her phone, showing him a video. Shaky footage of a young woman crying, mascara streaming down her face. "That's my sister, Lucia. Last year, Wesley drugged her at a party. She woke up on his boat with no memory of how she got there. Nothing happened, she got lucky. But 5 other girls didn't." Curtis felt sick. "Did she press charges?" "With what evidence? Wesley's careful, never leaves traces." Aurora's jaw tightened. "When Henry told me about your situation, I thought maybe we could help each other." "I'm listening." "The wedding's at Vizcaya. My company does aerial tours over the estate. I could have engine trouble at just the right moment. Maybe need to make an emergency landing on their lawn." "That seems extreme." Aurora laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Wesley Danes destroyed my sister's confidence. She hasn't left the house in 6 months. Extreme is letting him walk around free." Curtis processed this new information. His cousin wasn't just a thief and a cheater, he was a predator. "There's something else," Henry interjected. My team's been hired to cater the wedding. Amber doesn't know Wesley made all the arrangements. We'll have access to everything. The pieces were falling into place. Curtis felt like he was planning a dive checking equipment, calculating depths, timing decompression stops. Everything had to be perfect. "What do you need from me?" he asked. Aurora smiled for the first time. "Just play the dutiful best man. Get close to Wesley. Find out where he keeps his real books. The Bratva won't care about a few $100,000, but the IRS. They'll care about millions in unreported income." "And Amber?" Aurora's expression softened slightly. "She's a victim too, in a way. Wesley's good at making women feel special, right up until he doesn't need them anymore." Curtis thought about Amber, about the way she'd looked at Wesley in those photos. Had she ever looked at him that way? 1 week later. "I need 1 week to get everything in place," he said finally. "The wedding's in 2 weeks," Henry reminded him. "I know. Trust me." As they finalized details, Curtis's phone lit up with a text from Amber. "Baby, Wesley wants to have dinner with us tonight. He's so excited you said yes to being best man. Wear something nice." Curtis typed back, "Can't wait." That evening he found himself at Carbone in South Beach, watching his cousin hold court at a private table. Wesley looked every inch the successful DJ designer clothes, perfect fade, teeth so white they could be seen from space. He kept touching Amber, little possessive gestures that made Curtis's skin crawl. "Cuz!" Wesley stood, pulling Curtis into a hug that smelled of Tom Ford and arrogance. "Man, I'm so glad you're here. Water under the bridge, right?" "Right," Curtis managed, taking a seat. "And Amber's told me so much about your shark stuff. That's really cool, man, really cool." The condescension dripped like honey. "Must be nice, playing in the water all day." "It has its moments." Amber shifted uncomfortably. She'd barely looked at Curtis since he'd arrived, focusing instead on her phone or the menu or anything else. "So," Curtis said, cutting into his veal, "tell me about this wedding. Must be costing a fortune." Wesley waved dismissively. "Money's no object when you're marrying the woman of your dreams." He squeezed Amber's hand. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Still, Vizcaya can't be cheap. And 200 guests?" 250, actually. Wesley signaled for more wine. "Go big or go home, right? Plus, I've got some investors coming. Big opportunity to expand the label." Curtis filed that away. Investors, meaning the Russians would be there. "Speaking of which," Wesley continued, "I need a favor. Best man duties and all. There's a bachelor party next week. Nothing crazy, just some close friends at KOD. King of Diamonds, Miami's most exclusive strip club." "Amber's cool with that?" Curtis asked innocently. Wesley laughed. "What Amber doesn't know won't hurt her." He winked. "Besides, it's tradition." Curtis saw Amber's jaw tighten, her fingers white around her champagne flute. "Traditions are important," Curtis agreed. "Like trust and loyalty." The table went quiet. Wesley's smile faltered for just a second before returning full force. "Exactly. That's why I wanted you as my best man. Family loyalty." The rest of dinner passed in a blur of forced conversation and expensive wine. Curtis played his part perfectly, the supportive cousin, the understanding ex. He even toasted the happy couple, watching Amber flinch when he mentioned true love conquering all. As they waited for valet, Wesley pulled him aside. "Hey, thanks for being cool about this. I know it's weird, me and Amber. But when you know, right?" "When did you know?" Curtis asked. Wesley's eyes flickered. "What? When did you know she was the one? Was it before or after she was with me?" The valet arrived before Wesley could answer, but Curtis saw the truth in his cousin's face. This had been going on longer than 3 weeks, maybe longer than 3 months. Back home, Amber was already in bed, pretending to sleep. Curtis sat in his office, adding to his files. Bank records from Veronica. Flight paths from Aurora, menu plans from Henry that included some interesting additions to Wesley's meal. His phone buzzed. A number he didn't recognize. "Dr. Fox, this is Scarlett Rose. I'm a friend of Wesley's. I heard you're his best man. We need to talk." Another piece on the board. Curtis smiled in the dark. In chess, the best players thought several moves ahead. In diving, you planned for every contingency. In revenge, you became the shark everyone forgot was in the water until it was too late. Tomorrow, he told Scarlett. Bayfront Park, noon. After she agreed, Curtis opened his laptop and began typing, Wedding Day Protocol, Operation Hammerhead. The name felt right. Hammerheads were known for their unique ability to see in all directions at once. By the time Wesley realized he was being hunted, Curtis would already be closing in from every angle. Outside, Miami glittered like a jewelry box full of broken promises. In 2 weeks, at a museum dedicated to preserving the past, Curtis would show everyone what happened when you took what wasn't yours. The trap was set. Now all he had to do was wait for the prey to swim right in. The 200-foot mega-yacht Liquid Dreams cut through Biscayne Bay like a white knife through blue silk. Wesley had outdone himself for the engagement party, transforming the vessel into a floating nightclub complete with LED dance floors, aerial performers, and enough champagne to fill a swimming pool. Curtis stood at the stern, watching the Miami skyline shimmer in the sunset. He wore the Tom Ford suit Amber had picked out, playing the part of the supportive family member. In his pocket, his phone recorded everything, a silent witness to the evening's festivities. Champagne, sir? A server appeared with a crystal flute. Curtis recognized him, one of Henry's team, a young culinary student named Marcus. They made brief eye contact, and Marcus gave an almost imperceptible nod. Everything was in place. Curtis! Amber materialized beside him, stunning in a white Versace dress that probably cost more than most people's cars. You came. Wouldn't miss it, he said, not mentioning how she'd avoided him all week, sleeping at girlfriends' houses and leaving before he woke. She fidgeted with her engagement ring, a massive diamond that caught the light like a disco ball. Listen, I wanted to talk to you before. There's my beautiful bride! Wesley's voice boomed across the deck. He strutted over in a custom Gucci suit, already 3 drinks deep. And my favorite cousin. Man, this is perfect. The whole family together. Curtis noticed Wesley's pupils were dilated, his movements just a bit too animated. Cocaine, probably. It would make what came next even better. Wesley, a gravelly voice interrupted. We need to speak. Victor Volkov looked like Central Casting's idea of Russian mafia: broad shoulders, scarred face, dead eyes. 2 associates flanked him, their suits barely concealing shoulder holsters. Wesley's party persona cracked. Victor, hey man, this is a private event. Yes, and we are private people. Victor's English was heavily accented but clear. You have something for us? Not here, Wesley hissed, glancing around. Later, after the now. It wasn't a request. Wesley guided them toward the yacht's interior, shooting Curtis an apologetic look. Best man duties, cuz. Keep the party going. As they disappeared, Curtis felt Amber trembling beside him. What was that about? He asked innocently. Nothing. Business stuff. But her voice was hollow, scared. The party continued, a surreal mixture of Miami's social elite and people who were definitely not there for the canapes. Curtis mingled, playing his role, gathering intel. He learned Wesley owed Victor's organization more than Veronica had thought, close to $500,000 now, with interest compounding daily. Ladies and gentlemen, the DJ, one of Wesley's protégés, cut the music. Let's hear it for the happy couple. Wesley had returned, his earlier worry replaced by manic energy. He grabbed the microphone, pulling Amber against him. Thank you all for coming. This beautiful woman changed my life. Amber Laurent, the only influencer who could influence me. The crowd laughed dutifully. But seriously, I need to thank someone special, my cousin Curtis, the best man. A spotlight found Curtis. He raised his glass, forcing a smile. Curtis is a marine biologist, Wesley continued, his grin turning sharp. Studies sharks. Which is funny because for years I felt like a small fish next to him. Mr. Perfect, the scientist, the golden boy. The crowd grew quiet, sensing the shift in tone. But you know what? Turns out even smart guys can't see what's right in front of them. Wesley's arm tightened around Amber. Thanks for keeping her warm for me, cuz. Though between us, she told me you were more into fish than Wesley. Amber's voice was sharp, warning. What? It's all family here. Wesley was fully drunk now, or high, or both. Curtis knows I'm joking. Don't you, cuz? Just like you knew Amber was upgrading when she... The yacht lurched suddenly, engines sputtering. Guests stumbled, grabbing railings. Champagne glasses shattered on the deck. "What the hell?" Wesley shouted. Captain Morrison's voice crackled over the intercom. "Sorry, folks, minor engine trouble. We're dropping anchor for repairs. Should be sorted quickly." But Curtis could see Aurora's helicopter approaching low over the water, its searchlight sweeping across the yacht. Right on schedule. "Is that Coast Guard?" someone asked nervously. The chopper circled once, then banked sharply, engine coughing. Even from the deck, Curtis could see Aurora's performance, the controlled descent, the expert handling of a supposedly failing aircraft. "They're going to crash!" Amber screamed. The helicopter touched down hard on the yacht's helipad, rotors winding down. Aurora emerged in full flight gear, looking every inch the professional pilot who'd just saved her aircraft. "Sorry for the intrusion," she announced to the stunned crowd. "Engine failure. I'll need to use your radio to call for assistance." Xavier Vega chose that moment to make his entrance. The yacht club owner had been below deck, waiting for his cue. "Wesley Danes," Xavier's voice carried across the deck like thunder. "You're banned from this vessel, and every other vessel in my marinas." "What?" Wesley sputtered. "You can't—" "Outstanding debts of $63,000, plus damages to 3 boats during your parties." Xavier produced a folder. "Legal notice. You have 30 days to pay or face criminal charges." The crowd whispered, phones appearing to capture the drama. Wesley's face went from red to white. "This is a setup," he snarled, spinning to face Curtis. "You did this." "Did what?" Curtis asked calmly. "I've been here the whole time." "Mr. Danes," Victor Volkov stepped forward. "Perhaps we continue our conversation now?" "About the money?" Wesley looked trapped between the Russian mobster and the yacht club owner, his guests recording everything. His carefully constructed image was crumbling in real time. "Everyone just calm down," Wesley tried. "This is my engagement party." "No," Aurora said, removing her helmet to reveal her striking features. "This is what we call consequences." She looked directly at Wesley, and Curtis saw recognition dawn in his cousin's eyes. "You're Lucia's sister." "Very good." Aurora's smile was razor-sharp. "Lucia sends her regards. She'd be here herself, but she's still in therapy. Because of you." The crowd gasped. Phones swung between Aurora and Wesley like spectators at a tennis match. That wasn't," Wesley stammered. "Wasn't what? Wasn't you who drugged my sister? Wasn't you who's done it to 5 other girls we know of?" Aurora stepped closer. "Or wasn't supposed to come out at your party." Amber pulled away from Wesley, her face a mask of shock. "What is she talking about?" "Lies!" Wesley shouted. "Curtis is behind this. He's jealous because you chose me." He lunged at Curtis, but the champagne and cocaine made him clumsy. Curtis sidestepped easily, and Wesley crashed into a decorative ice sculpture, sending it shattering across the deck. "Wesley!" Amber rushed to help him up, but he shoved her away. "Don't touch me! This is your fault, too!" "If you hadn't been so obvious, if you'd been smarter about it—" He stopped, realizing what he'd just admitted. The crowd had formed a circle now, everyone recording, broadcasting live to thousands of followers. "So obvious about what?" Amber's voice was small, confused. Wesley laughed, an ugly sound. "Oh, now you play innocent? You knew exactly what you were doing. Trading up, getting access to my world, my connections. Well, guess what? The wedding's off." "What?" Amber's face crumpled. "You think I was actually going to marry you?" Wesley was in full self-destruct mode now. "Please, you were just convenient. A pretty face with a following. But there are 100 girls just like you in South Beach." Curtis watched Amber absorb each word like a physical blow. Part of him wanted to comfort her, but a larger part remembered her laughing on Wesley's lap, her lies, their stolen money. "Mr. Volkov," Wesley turned desperately to the Russian. "Tell them this is all a misunderstanding. Tell them—" "I tell them nothing," Victor cut him off. "You owe money. You pay, or—" He made a cutting gesture across his throat. The yacht's engines roared back to life. Captain Morrison's voice returned. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're returning to port. Please remain calm." But calm was impossible. The party had become a crime scene, a social media circus, a Shakespearean tragedy played out on Instagram Live. Henry appeared at Curtis's elbow. The catering team got everything. Audio, video, the works. Curtis nodded, watching Wesley rage against everyone: Aurora, Xavier, Victor, even his own guests who kept filming. Amber stood alone in her white dress, tears streaming down her face, her fairy tale wedding revealed as a nightmare. "Ladies and gentlemen," Aurora addressed the crowd, "what you've witnessed tonight is a man showing his true colors. Wesley Danes is a predator, a fraud, and now a very public failure." She walked to Curtis, taking his arm. "Some of you might remember Dr. Curtis Fox, the man Wesley just admitted to stealing from. Well, Curtis is twice the man Wesley could ever be, and I'm proud to be here with him tonight." She kissed his cheek, a gesture caught by 100 cameras. The narrative was already shifting: the wronged boyfriend, the heroic pilot, the villain exposed. As the yacht docked, police were waiting. Apparently, someone had called in a complaint about drugs on board. Wesley's pockets were searched, revealing several small bags of white powder. "That's not mine!" he screamed as they cuffed him. "Curtis, you planned this!" Curtis stepped forward, looking his cousin in the eye. "Actually, Wesley, you planned this. Every choice, every lie, every crime. I just made sure everyone could see it." "Sir," an officer approached. "We'll need statements from witnesses." "Of course," Curtis replied. "I saw everything." As Wesley was led away, he locked eyes with Amber one last time. "This is your fault, too. Remember that?" Amber sobbed, her perfect makeup destroyed, her designer dress stained with champagne and shame. The crowd parted as she stumbled toward the gangway, followed by the whispers and the cameras. Curtis felt Aurora squeeze his arm. "You okay?" "Yeah," he said, surprised to find it was true. "Yeah, I am." The party was over. The yacht emptied, guests hurrying to their cars to upload their footage, to share the scandal of the year. Wesley Exposed was already trending. Victor Volkov paused beside Curtis on his way out. "You are interesting man, Dr. Fox. If Wesley cannot pay, perhaps we discuss his debts." "I study sharks, Mr. Volkov. I don't swim with them." Victor laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "Clever. But remember, in ocean, everything swims with sharks, whether they know it or not." As the Russian departed, Curtis looked out at the bay. The water was black now, hiding its depths. Somewhere below, real sharks hunted in the darkness. But the most dangerous predators, Curtis had learned, walked on 2 legs and wore designer suits. "Come on," Aurora said, tugging him toward shore. "Let's get out of here. We've got a wedding to finish destroying." Curtis took one last look at the yacht, at the shattered ice sculptures and abandoned champagne flutes, at the dreams Wesley had built on lies and cocaine. The engagement party was over, but the real show was just beginning. The memory hit Curtis like a rogue wave every time he closed his eyes. 2 weeks before discovering Amber's betrayal, he'd been monitoring tiger sharks 40 feet down when his regulator failed. The sudden absence of air sent primal panic shooting through his veins. He'd trained for this, practiced emergency ascents 100 times, but training meant nothing when death wrapped its cold fingers around your throat. He'd broken the surface gasping, lungs screaming, vision blurring from nitrogen bubbles forming in his blood. Decompression sickness, the bends, every diver's nightmare. The Coast Guard helicopter had appeared like an orange angel against the cloudless sky. The pilot's voice crackled through the radio, calm and professional. "Diver in distress, this is Coast Guard rescue. Maintain position, we're coming to you." Aurora Vega had flown that chopper like she was born in it, hovering just close enough for the rescue swimmer to drop. Her precision saved his life 5 minutes later, and the nitrogen would have reached his brain. Now, sitting across from her at Bayfront Park as joggers streamed past in the morning heat, Curtis studied the woman who'd pulled him from death's grip. Aurora wore civilian clothes, fitted jeans, a simple white tank top, but she still carried herself like military. Straight spine, economical movements, eyes that missed nothing. "Strange how life works," she said, sipping her Cuban coffee. "I save your life, then find out you're cousins with the man who destroyed my sisters." "Lucia," Curtis said. "How is she?" Aurora's jaw tightened. 21 years old and afraid of her own shadow. Won't go to clubs, won't trust men, won't even finish her degree at FIU because Wesley might be there. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for him. Her hazel eyes flashed. Just help me end him. A cruise ship horn echoed across the bay. Aurora pulled out a tablet, swiping through files with military efficiency. Wesley's operation is bigger than you think. The DJ thing? That's just the front. He moves party drugs through his events, Molly, coke, ketamine. Small amounts, but consistent. The Russians supply, he distributes. How do you know all this? Navy intelligence training doesn't just disappear when you take off the uniform. She showed him financial records, shipping manifests, cryptocurrency transactions. Plus, my father owns half the venues Wesley uses. We see everything. Curtis absorbed the information like data points in a research study. This is enough to bury him. No, it's circumstantial. We need him on tape admitting to it. We need witnesses. Aurora leaned forward. That's where you come in. He trusts you now, thinks you're the pathetic ex who's rolling over. Thanks for the vote of confidence. She almost smiled. You're a shark expert who got played by a small fish, but here's what Wesley doesn't know: I've been watching you too. Curtis raised an eyebrow. After the rescue, I was curious. Read your research papers. Watched your presentations. You're not just some marine biologist, Curtis. You're a strategist. The way you track predator patterns, predict behavior, set up observation posts, you think like a hunter. I study hunters. There's a difference. Is there? Aurora pulled up a video on her tablet Curtis presenting at a conference, explaining how sharks use electromagnetic fields to detect prey. You understand predators better than anyone. Time to use that knowledge on a different kind of shark. She was right, Curtis realized. He'd spent years learning to think like an apex predator. Wesley was just another aggressive male marking territory, taking what wasn't his. What do you need me to do? The bachelor party. Wesley's guard will be down, he'll be high and drunk. Get him talking. I'll be there working undercover. As a stripper? Curtis remembered from the outline. Dancer, she corrected with a sharp look. Big difference. I've got contacts at King of Diamonds. They owe my father favors. And you're comfortable with that? Aurora's laugh was bitter. Comfortable? No, but I've done worse for better reasons. Besides, men like Wesley always talk around dancers. They think we're furniture with tits. The vulgarity surprised him, but her point was valid. Wesley's arrogance would be his downfall. There's something else, Aurora continued. Scarlet Rose. She's been trying to reach you? Curtis nodded. He'd gotten 3 calls from the unknown woman. She's another of Wesley's victims. Different from the others, though. She fought back, has recordings. But she's scared. Wesley's connected to people who make problems disappear. The Russians, among others. Aurora's expression darkened. Miami's a beautiful city, but underneath all that Art Deco and neon, there's rot. Wesley's just one infection. They spent the next hour planning, Aurora's military precision complementing Curtis's scientific methodology. She showed him surveillance photos, venue layouts, personnel files. The bachelor party would be their Normandy, she said. Everything led to that night. Why are you really doing this? Curtis asked as they prepared to leave. It can't just be about Lucia. Aurora stood, stretching like a cat. Even in civilian clothes, she moved with a pilot's grace, always aware of her space, her exits, her angles. My mother died when Lucia was 10, cancer. I promised her I'd protect my little sister. Her voice caught slightly. I failed. Wesley failed, not you. Same result. She gathered her things. But after next week, Wesley Danes will understand what it means to have a Vega hunting him. We don't forgive. We don't forget. We just wait for the right current. Speaking of currents, Curtis said, that rescue. Your flying was incredible. Just doing my job. But he caught the slight flush on her neck. Most pilots would have waited for calmer conditions. You flew into 20-knot winds to get to me faster. You were dying. I was a stranger. Aurora met his eyes fully for the first time. Behind the hardness, he saw something else, a flicker of the woman beneath the warrior. No one deserves to die alone in the ocean, she said softly, even if you were stupid enough to dive solo in shark waters. It was for research. It was reckless. Her tone sharpened again. Like dating someone who obviously didn't value you. The parallel stung because it was true. Curtis had ignored every red flag with Amber, just like he'd ignored safety protocols that day. "Guess I have a pattern," he admitted. "Then break it." Aurora stepped closer, close enough that he could smell her perfume, something clean and sharp, like ocean spray. "After we destroy Wesley, after the dust settles, maybe we can talk about better patterns." The invitation hung between them, unexpected and electric. Curtis felt something shift, like a current changing direction. "I'd like that," he said. Aurora smiled, a real smile this time, transforming her face. "Good. But first we have a wedding to ruin." As she walked away, Curtis watched her go. This woman who'd saved him once and was helping save him again. Wesley had taken Amber, but in doing so, he'd pushed Curtis toward someone far more valuable. His phone buzzed. Scarlet Rose again. "This time," he answered. "Dr. Fox? Thank God. I have something you need to hear, about Wesley and the wedding funds. He's planning something big and your ex-girlfriend has no idea what she's really walking into." Curtis smiled grimly. Another ally, another angle. Wesley thought he was the apex predator in these waters, but he'd forgotten the first rule of the ocean: there's always a bigger shark. And sometimes they hunt in packs. Wesley's penthouse looked like a Miami Vice fever dream, white everything, glass walls and enough cocaine residue on the marble countertops to make Tony Montana blush. Curtis stood in the living room, pretending to admire the view while Wesley ranted on the phone in the bedroom. "I don't care what Victor wants. Tell him he'll get his money after the wedding." Wesley's voice carried through the walls. "The old man's good for it. Amber's got 2 million followers, for Christ's sake. The sponsorship deals alone will cover." Curtis activated the recording app on his phone, slipping it behind a decorative vase. 7 days until the wedding, and Wesley was already cracking under pressure. "Yo, cuz!" Wesley emerged, pupils dilated, wearing a silk robe that probably cost more than most people's rent. "Sorry about that. Business stuff. You know how it is." "Sure," Curtis said, playing the supportive cousin. "Everything okay?" "Perfect. Everything's perfect." Wesley poured himself a scotch at 10 in the morning. Just some last-minute wedding details. You know Amber, she wants everything just right. Curtis bit back the irony. Amber was currently at a spa in Coral Gables, blissfully unaware that her fiancé was planning to drain their joint wedding account and disappear to the Cayman Islands. Scarlet Rose had provided the flight confirmations, one ticket, leaving the morning after the ceremony. "Speaking of details," Curtis said, "you needed help with something?" "Right. Man, you're a lifesaver." Wesley clapped him on the shoulder, breath reeking of alcohol and desperation. "I need you to pick up some packages, wedding gifts from various friends, very important friends. Drug money," Curtis translated. "Payments disguised as wedding presents." "Happy to help. Where am I going?" Wesley handed him a list of addresses. Curtis recognized several nightclubs, strip joints, a few waterfront mansions in Star Island, the who's who of Miami's underworld. "And cuz, be careful with these. Some of them are fragile." "Got it." As Curtis turned to leave, Wesley's phone rang again. The DJ's face went pale as he looked at the caller ID. "I gotta take this," he muttered, heading for the balcony. Curtis lingered, pretending to check his own phone while Wesley stepped outside. Through the glass, he could see his cousin's animated gestures, the barely controlled panic. The word Bratva drifted through the door. His phone buzzed. Aurora. In position at the hotel, Scarlet just arrived. Curtis slipped out while Wesley continued his frantic negotiations. The elevator ride down gave him time to forward the address list to Henry, who was coordinating with Aurora's father. Every gift pickup would be documented, tracked, reported. The valet brought his Range Rover around, and Curtis headed for the Four Seasons where Scarlet Rose waited. He found her at the pool bar, a stunning redhead in oversized sunglasses, nervously shredding a cocktail napkin. "Dr. Fox." He nodded, taking the seat across from her. Up close, she looked younger than he'd expected, maybe 25, with the kind of beauty that made men stupid. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, glancing around nervously. "I didn't know who else to call." "Aurora said you have recordings?" Scarlet pulled out her phone with shaking hands. "Wesley doesn't know I kept these. He was always high when we were together. He liked to brag. She played the first recording. Wesley's voice, slurred and arrogant. That stupid bitch Amber thinks she's getting a wedding. She's getting a bankruptcy. 50 grand in wedding funds all going straight to Victor. She signs the papers thinking it's for the venue, but really, she's signing her credit into my name. Curtis's stomach turned. Identity theft on top of everything else. There's more, Scarlett said, swiping to another file. This one's from last week. Wesley again, laughing with someone. Curtis is the best part. Poor bastard actually thinks I feel guilty. He's helping me rob his ex-girlfriend blind and he doesn't even know it. Maybe I'll send him a postcard from the Caymans. Why are you telling me this? Curtis asked, though he was grateful for the evidence. Scarlett removed her sunglasses, revealing a faded bruise under her left eye, expertly covered with makeup but still visible in the bright Miami sun. Because Wesley Danes destroyed my life. I was a singer, you know. Had a real shot. Then I met him, and suddenly my demos were being used to smuggle drug money. My name was on accounts I never opened, and when I tried to leave. She didn't need to finish. The bruise told its own story. He needs to pay, she continued. But I can't do it alone. He has friends. Dangerous friends. Not for much longer, Curtis assured her. Can you send me those recordings? She nodded, fingers flying across her phone. There's one more thing. The bachelor party tomorrow night? Wesley's planning something special. He keeps talking about making it memorable for you specifically. What kind of memorable? The kind that involves Rohypnol and compromising photos. He wants leverage on you, insurance that you won't interfere with his plans. Curtis felt cold despite the Miami heat. His cousin wasn't just a thief and a predator, he was systematically evil. Thanks for the warning. Dr. Fox? Scarlett stood to leave. When this is over, when he's in jail where he belongs, will you let me know? I haven't slept well in months. You'll sleep well soon, Curtis promised. That's a guarantee. After she left, Curtis sat by the pool, processing the information. His phone showed 17 missed calls from Amber. He ignored them all, focusing instead on the next phase of the plan. Aurora appeared as if materialized from thin air, sliding into Scarlett's vacant seat. She'd changed from her morning outfit into resort-wear sundress, sandals, looking every inch the tourist. Got it all, she said, patting her purse where a recording device nestled. Clean audio, admissible in court. He's planning to drug me tomorrow night. I know. Scarlett told me first. Aurora's expression was deadly. Don't worry, Henry's handling the catering for the bachelor party too. Wesley's going to get a special cocktail of his own. Nothing fatal? Just memorable. She smiled darkly. Ever had food poisoning in a strip club? Neither has Wesley, yet. They spent the next hour coordinating. Aurora's father had pulled strings with his connections. The IRS would be waiting at the wedding venue, arrest warrants ready. The FBI had been notified about the money laundering. Even ICE was interested, given some of Wesley's friends had questionable visa statuses. It's like a shark-feeding frenzy, Curtis mused. Once there's blood in the water, everyone wants a bite. Poetic. Aurora checked her phone. Speaking of sharks, you have packages to pick up. I'll tail you. Document everything. Be careful. These people don't play. Aurora's laugh was sharp. Neither do I. Navy trained, remember? Plus, I've got backup. She gestured subtly to a table across the pool where two serious-looking men in Hawaiian shirts sat reading newspapers, her father's security team. Curtis made the rounds, collecting wedding gifts from some of Miami's most notorious addresses. Briefcases full of cash, duffel bags that clinked with hidden bottles, packages wrapped in enough tape to survive a hurricane. Each pickup was photographed, recorded, cataloged by Aurora's invisible network. By evening, Curtis's Range Rover looked like a DEA evidence locker. He delivered everything to Wesley's penthouse, where his cousin greeted him with manic energy and dilated pupils. Perfect. You're the best, cuz. Seriously. Wesley hugged him, reeking of sweat and paranoia. Tomorrow night's gonna be epic. Just you wait. Can't wait, Curtis lied. As he left, Curtis noticed Amber's Mercedes in the parking garage. She was upstairs with Wesley, probably finalizing wedding details, completely unaware she was planning a funeral instead of a future. For a moment, Curtis felt a pang of sympathy. Then he remembered the GPS tracker showing her at Wesley's place while she lied to his face. The $50,000 stolen from their future, the casual cruelty of her betrayal. The sympathy evaporated like morning mist over Biscayne Bay. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Victor. We should talk. Alone." Curtis smiled grimly and deleted the message. The Russians were getting nervous. Good. Nervous predators made mistakes, and mistakes in these waters meant becoming prey. 7 days until Wesley's wedding. 6 until the bachelor party that would begin his downfall. The countdown had begun, and Curtis could feel the anticipation building like pressure before a dive. Soon, everyone would see what happened when you took what wasn't yours in Miami. The city might forgive a lot of sins, but stealing from family, that was unforgivable. Even the Sharks knew that. King of Diamonds squatted on the edge of the city like a neon tumor, all pink lights and bad decisions. The parking lot overflowed with Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and one memorable Bugatti with a DJWS vanity plate. Curtis pulled up in his Range Rover, feeling overdressed in his Tom Ford suit among the chaos of bachelor party uniforms, matching shirts with Wesley's face printed on them. "Curtis!" Wesley stumbled out of a party bus, already 3 sheets to the wind. "My best man, boys! Give it up for my favorite cousin!" 20 guys cheered with the enthusiasm of the deeply intoxicated. Curtis recognized half of them club promoters, small-time dealers, the kind of guys who thought wearing Gucci slides to a strip club was the height of sophistication. "Let's get this party started!" Wesley threw his arm around Curtis, breath toxic with champagne and cocaine. "I got us the VIP room, only the best for my last night of freedom." They pushed through the main floor, bass thumping so loud it felt like being inside a heartbeat. Dancers worked the poles with athletic grace while money rained from the ceiling like green snow. Curtis spotted Aurora immediately. She dyed her hair platinum blonde and wore contact lenses that turned her hazel eyes electric blue. Even disguised, she moved differently than the other dancers, with a coiled readiness that spoke of military training rather than pole classes. The VIP room was a cave of red velvet and questionable decisions. Bottles of champagne sat in LED-lit buckets while dancers circulated like beautiful sharks. Wesley claimed the center couch, pulling Curtis down beside him. "Drinks!" Wesley shouted. "Where's my special bottle?" Henry emerged from the shadows dressed as a server, carrying a distinctive black bottle with a gold label. He caught Curtis's eye and winked. The special ingredient was already working its magic in Wesley's system, he just didn't know it yet. "To marriage." Wesley raised his glass. "And to family. Curtis, you beautiful bastard, thanks for being here." They toasted, Curtis pretending to sip while Wesley downed his entire glass. Within minutes, his cousin was ordering another bottle, then another. The music pounded, dancers danced, and money flew like confetti at a parade. "You know what the best part is?" Wesley slurred, pulling Curtis closer. "Amber has no fucking clue. She thinks she's marrying for love." Curtis kept his expression neutral. "She doesn't love you?" Wesley's laugh was ugly. "Love? Man, she loves my lifestyle. The parties, the connections, the gram-worthy moments, but me? Nah. She's still hung up on you, talks about you in her sleep sometimes." The admission hit Curtis unexpectedly. He pushed the feeling away. "But here's the thing," Wesley continued, gesturing wildly with his champagne flute. "After tomorrow, won't matter what she loves. She'll be broke. I'll be in the Caymans and you." He pointed at Curtis with a sloppy grin. "You'll finally see what it feels like to win." "Win what?" "Everything, cuz. See, I always hated you. Perfect Curtis with his scholarships and his degrees and his stupid fish. Everyone loves Curtis." His voice turned venomous. "Well, I took your girl. And tomorrow I'm taking her money, her reputation, everything. How's that for winning?" Aurora appeared at their table, playing her role perfectly. "You boys need some company?" Wesley's eyes lit up with predatory interest. "Well, hello, beautiful. What's your name?" "Diamond," Aurora purred, her accent completely transformed. "Like the club." "I like diamonds. Wesley said, pulling out a roll of hundreds. "Dance for us. Especially my cousin here. He needs to loosen up." Aurora moved with practiced grace, never quite touching but always suggesting. Curtis watched Wesley watch her, saw the moment his cousin's eyes began to glaze not from alcohol, but from Henry's special additive. "Excuse me," Wesley mumbled, standing abruptly. "I need to." He didn't finish, rushing toward the bathroom with his hand over his mouth. Two of his entourage followed, concerned. "Now," Aurora whispered to Curtis. "His phone." Curtis grabbed Wesley's iPhone from the table. Face ID wouldn't work, but Wesley was arrogant enough to use 0000 as his passcode. The phone unlocked, revealing a treasure trove of evidence. Text messages with Victor about drug shipments. Photos from his various conquests, including several clearly unconscious women. Financial records showing the wedding fund transfers. And most damning, a video Wesley had taken of himself, high and bragging about his plans. "I'm gonna destroy them both," Video Wesley said to the camera. "Amber's gonna sign everything over thinking it's wedding paperwork. Curtis is gonna help me do it. And when it's done, I disappear like a ghost. The perfect crime, baby." Curtis forwarded everything to Aurora's secure server, then placed the phone back just as Wesley returned, pale and sweating. "Bad oysters at dinner," he mumbled, collapsing on the couch. "Where's my drink?" Henry appeared with water. Wesley downed it desperately. "You know what?" Wesley said suddenly, staring at Curtis with unfocused eyes. "I gotta tell you something. About Amber. About what really happened. Wesley, maybe you should—" No, you deserve to know." He leaned in conspiratorially. "It wasn't her idea. The affair. I pursued her for months. Kept telling her you were cheating, that I'd seen you with other women." Curtis's blood ran cold. "That's not true. Course it's not true. But she believed it. Especially after I had that girl from the marina call your phone a few times. Remember those hang-ups? That was me, cuz. All me." The room seemed to spin. Curtis thought back to those mysterious calls, how Amber had grown suspicious and distant afterward. "Why?" was all he could manage. "Because I could," Wesley said simply. "Because you had everything, the girl, the career, the respect, and I had nothing but money and connections. So I took what was yours, just like I always did." He laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Remember your science fair project in 8th grade? The one about ocean currents? I stole your research notes, submitted them as mine. Won first place while you scrambled to redo everything." "I remember," Curtis said quietly. "Or Stephanie Morales, your high school girlfriend? Guess who told her you were cheating with her best friend?" The pattern was clear now, stretching back decades. Wesley had been sabotaging him since childhood, a one-man wrecking crew powered by jealousy and cocaine. "But Amber was my masterpiece," Wesley continued, oblivious to Curtis recording everything on his phone. "She actually fell for it, thought I was the better man, and tomorrow, when I leave her at the altar with nothing but debt and shame, she'll finally understand what you felt." "You're not going to the wedding?" Wesley grinned sloppily. "Flight leaves at noon. Ceremony's at 3. By the time she figures it out, I'll be sipping mojitos on 7 Mile Beach." Aurora had moved closer, pretending to dance while capturing every word on her hidden camera. Other dancers circulated, but the VIP room had become a confession booth. "The Russians?" Curtis prompted. "Will get their money from Amber's accounts. She signed power of attorney last week, thinking it was for the honeymoon resort. Stupid girl." Wesley's head lolled back. "Victor's gonna clean her out, probably come after her when he realizes there's not enough. Not my problem." Curtis felt sick. Whatever Amber had done to him, she didn't deserve the Russian mafia hunting her. "Why tell me all this?" Wesley focused on him with difficulty. "Because after tomorrow won't matter. You can't stop it. Too late. Everything's in motion." He giggled, a disturbing sound. "Plus that special drink you're having? Roofied. You won't remember any of this." Curtis held up his untouched glass. "You mean this drink?" Wesley's face went through several expressions: confusion, realization, fear. "Henry sends his regards," Curtis said. "He made your drink special, not mine. How's the food poisoning treating you?" As if on cue, Wesley lurched forward, doubling over. This time, he didn't make it to the bathroom. The VIP room erupted in chaos. Wesley's entourage scattered as their leader emptied his stomach across the velvet furniture. Aurora stepped back gracefully, avoiding the splash zone. "Someone call an ambulance!" one of the groomsmen shouted. "No!" Wesley gasped between heaves. "No ambulance! Just get me home." Curtis stood, brushing imaginary dust from his suit. "Quite a bachelor party, Wesley. Definitely memorable." He walked out, leaving his cousin in a puddle of his own making. Aurora followed minutes later, meeting him in the parking lot. "Got everything," she confirmed. "Video, audio, the whole confession." "He orchestrated all of it," Curtis said, still processing. "Every betrayal, every loss, my entire life he's been there, taking things." Aurora touched his arm gently. "Not anymore. After tomorrow, Wesley Danes is finished." Curtis looked back at King of Diamonds, where paramedics were now loading Wesley into an ambulance despite his protests. Tomorrow's groom, tonight's patient. "You know what the funny part is?" Curtis said. "He was right about one thing. I won't forget this night." "Neither will he," Aurora agreed. "Henry outdid himself with that cocktail. Wesley's going to be sick for days." They stood in the parking lot, surrounded by the excess of Miami nightlife. Two predators who'd successfully cornered their prey. Tomorrow would bring the final act, but tonight? Tonight, Wesley Danes had confessed to everything. And unlike his victims, Curtis would remember every word. Dawn broke over Miami like spilled champagne, golden and full of false promises. Curtis stood on his balcony, watching the city wake up while his phone buzzed with increasingly frantic messages. "Amber, have you seen Wesley? He's not answering." Wesley's mom. "Curtis, dear, Wesley's sick. Can you check on him?" Henry. "Catering team in position. It's showtime." The last one made him smile. In 6 hours, Wesley Danes would either be married or arrested, possibly both. Curtis dressed carefully. The Armani tux fit like armor. The cufflinks Wesley had given him as a best man gift, recording everything in high definition. He'd wired himself like a federal informant, which wasn't far from the truth. Veronica Chen had made some calls, and suddenly Curtis had friends in interesting places. His phone rang. Wesley, finally. "Cuz," his cousin's voice was raw, destroyed. "I'm dying." "Food poisoning's rough," Curtis said sympathetically. "But hey, it's your wedding day. Rally time." "I can't. I've been up all night. Can't keep water down. Amber's going to kill me." Curtis heard retching in the background. Henry's cocktail was still working its magic. "Want me to come over? Best man duties and all?" "Would you? Man, you're a lifesaver. Bring Gatorade and Pepto, and maybe a priest." Curtis found Wesley's penthouse in chaos. His cousin lay on the bathroom floor in his underwear, wedding tux crumpled in the corner. The place smelled like a crime scene. "Jesus, Wesley. You look like death." "Feel worse." Wesley crawled toward the toilet again. "This can't be happening. The wedding's in 4 hours." 3.5, Curtis corrected, handing him a bottle of Gatorade. "Where's Amber?" "At the hotel with her bridesmaids. She doesn't know, can't know, if she finds out I'm like this." He groaned. "The Russians are coming to the wedding. Victor expects his money today." Curtis played concerned cousin while cataloging the apartment. Suitcases by the door, passport on the counter, plane ticket printout to the Caymans crumpled in the trash. Wesley had been minutes from running when the food poisoning hit. "You need to get up," Curtis said. "Shower, suit, smile. You can do this." "Why are you helping me?" Wesley looked up with bloodshot eyes. "After everything?" "Because family helps family," Curtis lied smoothly. "Even when they don't deserve it." Something flickered in Wesley's expression, guilt, maybe, or just gas. He struggled to his feet, swaying. "The money," he mumbled. "It's all in the wedding account. 500 grand. As soon as Amber signs the final papers at the ceremony, it transfers to an offshore account. Then I'm gone." "Gone?" Wesley laughed bitterly. "You think I'm actually marrying her? Please. She's an Instagram model with daddy issues. Fun to play with, but wife material? No way." Curtis recorded every word, thinking of Amber preparing for her dream wedding across town. "So you're just going to leave her at the altar?" "Better. I'll go through with the ceremony, get her signature, then ghost during the reception. By the time she realizes what happened, I'll be international waters." Wesley stumbled toward the shower. "Help me get ready? I can barely stand." For the next hour, Curtis played dutiful best man, helping Wesley dress while documenting evidence. The tux pockets contained more than cufflinks forged documents, Amber's power of attorney, bank routing numbers. "How do I look?" Wesley asked finally, standing before the mirror. Despite the hangover, he'd pulled himself together. Designer tux, perfect hair, cologne masking the scent of sickness. "Like a groom," Curtis said truthfully. "Like a man about to get everything he deserves." Wesley missed the double meaning, focused on not vomiting again. They loaded into Curtis's Range Rover, Wesley clutching a plastic bag like a security blanket. The Vizcaya Museum gleamed in the afternoon sun, its Italian Renaissance gardens transformed into a wedding wonderland. White roses everywhere, crystal chandeliers hanging from ancient trees, a string quartet playing beside fountains that sparkled like Wesley's victims' tears. "Mr. Danes!" The wedding coordinator rushed over, clipboard clutched to her chest. "Thank goodness. We were worried. The photographer needs you and Miss Laurent is asking—" "Tell her I'm here," Wesley managed, color draining from his face. "Just need a minute." Curtis watched his cousin disappear into the groom's suite, then pulled out his phone. Multiple messages from his team. Aurora. "In position. Dad's here with extra security." Henry. "Kitchen secure. Special menu prepared." Veronica. "IRS agents in the parking lot. FBI en route." Scarlett. "I'm here. Wouldn't miss this for the world." The pieces were falling into place. Curtis straightened his tie and walked toward the gardens where guests were gathering. Miami's elite mixed with Wesley's underworld connections in a surreal cocktail of legitimacy and crime. "Curtis!" Amber appeared like a vision in white, her wedding dress a confection of lace and broken dreams. "Have you seen Wesley? He hasn't answered my texts all morning." She looked radiant, Curtis had to admit. The dress probably cost more than most people's cars, her hair and makeup flawless. For a moment he remembered why he'd loved her. Then he remembered finding her in Wesley's bed. "He's here," Curtis said. "In the groom's suite. Just some pre-wedding jitters." "Thank God." She touched his arm, and he saw tears threatening her careful makeup. "Curtis, I wanted to say something. Before everything happens." Amber. "No, please, let me." She took a shaky breath. "I know I hurt you. What I did was unforgivable, but I want you to know. Wesley made me believe things about you, things that weren't true. By the time I realized, it was too late." She nodded miserably. "He showed me photos of you with other women, had people call me, pretending to be your mistresses. I was so stupid, so insecure, and he was there telling me I deserved better." Curtis felt a cold satisfaction. Wesley's confession from last night confirmed, straight from the victim's mouth. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because after today I'll be Mrs. Wesley Danes, and I need you to know that I'm sorry, that I'll regret losing you for the rest of my life." The irony was almost too much. She thought she was gaining a husband today. Instead, she was about to lose everything. "Amber," Curtis started, then stopped. Warning her would ruin everything. "Just be careful. Make sure you read anything before you sign it." Confusion crossed her face, but the wedding coordinator appeared, ushering her away. "Miss Laurent, the photographer's ready for your shots." Curtis watched her go. This woman who'd shared his bed for 3 years, who'd believed lies and chosen flash over substance. Part of him wanted to save her. The rest of him remembered the GPS tracker showing her locations, the 50,000 stolen from their future, the casual cruelty of her betrayal. "Let her burn," he whispered, then went to find his position. The ceremony space filled with guests. Curtis spotted Aurora in a stunning blue dress, playing the role of Henry's Plusone. Xavier Vega sat in the front row, looking like a benevolent grandfather rather than someone who could have you disappeared. Victor Volkov and his crew took up an entire section, their presence casting a shadow over the festivities. "Ladies and gentlemen," the coordinator clapped her hands, "please take your seats. The ceremony is about to begin." Curtis took his place at the altar, watching ushers guide guests to their chairs. Wesley emerged from the groom's suite, still pale but holding it together. He caught Curtis's eye and gave a thumbs up that looked more like a cry for help. The string quartet began the processional. Bridesmaids floated down the aisle in seafoam green, followed by flower girls tossing petals like tiny angels of destruction. Then the music changed to the wedding march, and everyone stood. Amber appeared at the garden entrance, her father beside her, and even Curtis had to admit she looked breathtaking. The dress, the setting, the golden afternoon light, it was perfect. If only the groom wasn't planning to rob her blind and abandon her to the Russian mafia. Wesley swayed slightly as Amber approached. Curtis steadied him with a hand on his shoulder, feeling the tremors running through his cousin's body. "Dearly beloved," the officiant began, "we are gathered here today." Curtis tuned out the words, scanning the crowd. There are two men in ill-fitting suits near the back, federal agents trying to blend in, and there Scarlett in the third row, her phone discreetly recording. Henry's catering team circulated with champagne, each one documenting faces, conversations, connections. "The rings?" the officiant prompted. Curtis produced the bands, diamond-encrusted lies that sparkled in the sun. Wesley's hands shook as he took them. "Do you, Wesley Danes, take this woman?" The words flowed like honey over broken glass. Wesley managed his vows, though sweat beaded on his forehead. Amber glowed with happiness, oblivious to the trap closing around her. "I do," Wesley croaked when prompted. "And do you, Amber Laurent?" This was it, the moment she'd sign her life away. Curtis saw the papers appear hidden among the Unity ceremony documents, power of attorney forms that would give Wesley control of everything. "I do," Amber said, tears streaming down her face. "If anyone objects to this union," the officiant continued, "speak now or forever hold your peace." Silence stretched like a held breath. Curtis felt the weight of the moment, the opportunity to stop everything with a word. He stayed silent. Then, by the power vested in me, a phone rang, loud, insistent, echoing across the gardens. Viktor Volkov answered it, his face darkening as he listened. "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Wesley leaned in for the kiss just as Volkov stood, barking something in Russian. Federal agents moved from their positions. The wedding coordinator's clipboard fell, revealing a badge, and in that perfect moment, as Wesley's lips met Amber's in matrimonial fraud, Curtis smiled. The trap wasn't closing around Amber. It had been around Wesley all along. The kiss lasted 3 seconds. 3 seconds of Wesley's lips on Amber's. 3 seconds of matrimonial fraud sealed with saliva and lies. Then Viktor Volkov's voice cut through the garden air like a machete through wedding cake. "You think you can steal from me?" The Russian's accent made the words sound like breaking bones. "The accounts are frozen. All of them." Wesley pulled away from Amber, his face draining of what little color the food poisoning had left. "What?" "My people just called. 500,000 gone. Accounts locked by federal order." Victor stepped into the aisle, his associates flanking him like attack dogs in Armani. "You set me up." "No!" Wesley's voice cracked. "That's impossible. I just transferred—" "Wesley!" Amber's confusion bloomed across her face. "What's he talking about? What money?" The string quartet had stopped playing. 200 guests sat frozen, phones out, recording every second of the unfolding disaster. Near the back, Curtis saw the federal agents moving closer, hands reaching inside their jackets. "Nothing, baby. Just business." "Business?" Victor laughed, a sound like grinding glass. "Your wife should know what kind of business her new husband does." That's when the LED screens flickered to life. The wedding coordinator had installed them for the reception slideshow, but now they displayed something else entirely. Wesley's face filled the screens, grainy but unmistakable, from last night's bachelor party. "Amber's gonna sign everything over thinking it's wedding paperwork," Video Wesley slurred. "Curtis is gonna help me do it. And when it's done, I disappear like a ghost. The perfect crime, baby." The garden erupted. Guests gasped. Phones swung between the screens and the altar where Amber stood in her $50,000 dress, looking like she'd been shot. "That's not... Wesley, what is this?" But Wesley wasn't looking at her. His bloodshot eyes had found Curtis, standing calm in his position as best man. "You," Wesley breathed. "You did this." "Did what?" Curtis asked innocently. "I just stood here and watched you marry the love of your life. Congratulations, by the way." The screens changed again. Now it showed Wesley's confession about pursuing Amber, about the fake phone calls, about stealing Curtis's science fair project in 8th grade. The audio was crystal clear, every damning word echoing across the gardens. "Turn it off!" Wesley lunged for the AV equipment, but his legs betrayed him. The food poisoning and shock combined to send him sprawling across the altar steps, his designer tux tearing at the knee. "Wesley!" Amber rushed to help him, but he shoved her away. "Don't touch me! This is your fault, too! If you hadn't been so easy to manipulate—" The slap echoed like a gunshot. Amber stood over him, hand still raised, tears streaming down her face and ruining her professional makeup. "Easy to manipulate? You told me Curtis was cheating. You showed me photos." "Fake photos," Aurora's voice rang out as she stepped forward, still in her blue dress but no longer playing anyone's +1. "Doctored images Wesley paid a tech guy in Wynwood to create. I have the receipts." She held up a tablet, showing bank transfers and email exchanges. The screens behind the altar synced with her device, displaying the evidence for everyone to see. "Who are you?" Amber demanded. "Aurora Vega. I saved Curtis's life once. Now I'm returning the favor." She looked at Wesley with disgust. "Your husband drugged my sister. 4 other women that we know of. Would you like to see those videos too?" "No," Wesley groaned from the ground. "Please." But the screens were already changing. Security footage from various Miami clubs, showing Wesley dropping something into drinks, leading stumbling women to his car. The quality was poor, but the pattern was undeniable. "Enough!" Victor Volkov roared. "I don't care about your soap opera. Where is my money?" "The money's gone," Curtis said, stepping forward. "Frozen by the IRS. Turns out Wesley's been laundering cash through his DJ business for years. Very sloppy bookkeeping." He produced a flash drive from his pocket. "Everything's on here. Financial records, cryptocurrency transactions, even recordings of Wesley discussing drug shipments with your organization, Mr. Volkov." The Russian's face went purple. "You wear a wire to your cousin's wedding?" "Several wires, actually." Curtis tapped his cufflinks. "These are amazing. Military-grade HD video and audio. Gift from the best man to the groom." That's when the federal agents made their move. "Wesley Danes, you're under arrest for money laundering, tax evasion, and conspiracy to distribute controlled substances." "FBI, nobody move!" The garden exploded into chaos. Guests scattered like startled fish, some running for exits, others still filming. Victor's men reached for weapons but found themselves surrounded by agents who'd been posing as catering staff. "You too, Mr. Volkov," an agent said, producing handcuffs. "We've been watching you for a long time." Wesley tried to crawl away but didn't make it far. An agent hauled him to his feet, his white tux now stained with grass and vomit. "Curtis!" he screamed. "You destroyed everything!" "My own blood!" "Your blood!" Curtis laughed. "You've been poisoning my life since we were kids, stealing my projects, my girlfriends, my money. Well, cousin, consider this my wedding gift. A one-way trip to federal prison." "Mrs. Danes," an agent approached Amber, who stood frozen at the altar. "We'll need to speak with you about the fraudulent documents you signed." "I didn't know," she sobbed. "I thought they were wedding papers, unity ceremony documents." "We'll sort it out at the station." As they led Wesley away, he locked eyes with Curtis one last time. "She loved you, you know, even after everything. Used to cry about losing you." "I know," Curtis said, "but she chose you anyway. Enjoy your honeymoon in federal custody." The screens behind the altar had one final surprise. A live feed appeared showing Wesley's penthouse being raided, agents carrying out boxes of evidence. His Cayman Islands escape plan shredded, his hidden stash of drugs discovered, his entire life dismantled in real time for Miami's elite to witness. Henry appeared beside Curtis, chef's whites somehow still pristine despite the chaos. "The wedding cake's ready? Shame to waste it." "Serve it at the reception," Curtis said. "Let the guests eat while they watch the show." "What reception?" Henry gestured at the fleeing crowd. "The one we're about to throw. Call it a dodged-a-bullet party." Amber approached them, mascara running down her cheeks in black rivers. "Curtis, Save it," Aurora interrupted, stepping between them. "You made your choice. You believed lies because they were prettier than truth. Now live with the consequences." "But I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't unfrost bank accounts," Aurora said coldly. "Sorry doesn't undo the humiliation Curtis endured. Sorry doesn't give back the 50,000 you stole." Amber's face crumpled. "The 50,000. Wesley said it was for our future." "It was," Curtis said. "Just not yours." Scarlet Rose materialized from the crowd, her phone still recording. "This is better than I imagined. Wesley Danes, arrested at his own wedding. It's already trending. Wesley wedding disaster." "You're all enjoying this," Amber accused, looking around at their faces. "You planned this whole thing to humiliate me." "No," Curtis corrected. "We planned this to stop Wesley. You humiliated yourself when you chose Instagram followers over integrity." The garden was emptying now, guests fleeing the crime scene that had been a wedding. Police tape already sectioned off areas where evidence had been found. The string quartet packed up their instruments, probably planning to charge extra for performing at a federal raid. Xavier Vega approached, having watched the entire spectacle from his front row seat. "Impressive work, Dr. Fox. Though I must say, you've ruined my appetite for weddings." "There'll be better ones," Aurora said, taking Curtis's arm. "Ones built on truth instead of cocaine and lies." Amber made one last attempt. "Curtis, please. We had 3 years together. Doesn't that mean anything?" Curtis looked at her, really looked at her. The designer dress now wrinkled and stained. The perfect makeup destroyed. The woman who'd shared his bed and betrayed his trust, reduced to begging at her own failed wedding. "It meant everything," he said quietly. "Until you decided it meant nothing." He turned and walked away, Aurora beside him, leaving Amber alone at the altar she'd sold her soul to reach. Behind them, the LED screens finally went dark, but the memories they'd displayed would live forever in the cloud, in evidence lockers, in the nightmares of Wesley Danes. The wedding was over, but the real celebration was just beginning. The Vizcaya Museum's reception hall looked like a crime scene decorated for a party. Half-eaten canapes dotted abandoned tables while federal agents photographed evidence markers where the head table should have been. But in the center of it all, Curtis raised a champagne flute filled with Dom Perignon that Wesley would never get to drink. "To the happy couple," he announced to the remaining guests, mostly Henry's staff, Aurora's team, and a handful of Miami socialites too fascinated to leave. "May they enjoy their separate federal holding facilities." "Here, here!" Henry clinked glasses with him, still wearing his chef's whites. "Though I must say, serving handcuffs instead of wedding cake wasn't in my original menu." Aurora laughed, the sound bright against the chaos. She'd lost the pretense of being anyone's date, standing tall in her blue dress like a victorious general surveying a battlefield. "Speaking of cake," she said, "didn't you prepare something special?" Henry's grin turned wicked. "Oh, yes, the Wesley special." He signaled to his team, who wheeled out an elaborate 5-tier wedding cake. But instead of the traditional bride and groom toppers, a pair of silver handcuffs crowned the confection. The inscription read, "Till federal prison do us part." "That's cold," Scarlet Rose said, but she was already taking photos. "My followers are going to lose their minds. This whole thing's better than a reality show." The remaining guests gathered around as Henry cut the cake with ceremonial precision. Each slice revealed layers of dark chocolate and bitter orange. "Wesley's favorite," Henry explained, with an extra helping of just desserts. Curtis's phone hadn't stopped buzzing. Messages flooded in from colleagues, friends, people he hadn't talked to in years. The video of Wesley's arrest had already hit 1 million views. Wedding Crashers' revenge was trending nationally. "Dr. Fox?" A woman in a severe suit approached. "Agent Sarah Chen, FBI Financial Crimes Division. Impressive work with the evidence collection. Ever consider consulting for us?" "I study sharks," Curtis replied. "Just happened to catch a human one in my net." "Well, your net caught one of our biggest targets. Victor Volkov's been on our radar for years. Wesley's testimony will be instrumental." She said the last word with satisfaction. Wesley would sing like a canary to reduce his sentence, throwing everyone under the bus to save himself. The irony was delicious. The man who'd betrayed everyone would end his career as a federal informant. "What about Amber?" Aurora asked. She's as much a victim as anyone. Agent Chen shrugged. She signed fraudulent documents, even if unknowingly. Best case, she's looking at probation and massive fines. Worst case, well, ignorance isn't much of a defense. Through the reception hall windows, Curtis could see Amber being led to a police car, her wedding dress trailing on the ground like broken wings. Part of him felt a twinge of sympathy. The rest remembered finding her in Wesley's bed. "Curtis!" Xavier Vega's voice boomed across the hall. "My boy, that was spectacular! Better than any telenovela!" Aurora's father had changed from his funeral suit into something more celebratory, a white linen outfit that made him look like a benevolent drug lord, which Curtis supposed wasn't far from the truth in Miami. "I have a proposal," Xavier continued, commandeering the microphone from the abandoned DJ booth. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've witnessed a wedding end in disaster, but from disaster, opportunity." He raised his champagne glass. "I'm announcing the Xavier Vega Ocean Conservation Fund, with Dr. Curtis Fox as our lead researcher. $50 million to start, because any man who can take down Wesley Danes while wearing a tuxedo deserves proper funding." The room erupted in applause. Curtis felt his knees go weak. 50 million? That was more than most marine biologists saw in a lifetime. Mr. Vega, that's incredibly generous, but no buts, Xavier boomed. "My daughter vouches for you. You saved my friend's restaurant from a parasite, and most importantly, you did it with style." Miami respects style. Aurora appeared at Curtis's side, slipping her hand into his. "Say yes," she whispered. "We could do amazing things together. Research, rescue, conservation, partners in every sense." Curtis looked at her, this woman who'd crashed into his life like a rogue wave and changed everything. "We? Well, someone needs to fly you to research sites and keep you from doing stupid solo dives." Her smile was warm, real, nothing like the calculated expressions he'd grown used to with Amber. "Then yes," Curtis said, loud enough for Xavier to hear. "I accept." More champagne appeared as if by magic. Henry commanded the kitchen, producing a feast from what should have been Wesley and Amber's reception dinner. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. They were literally eating the wedding that never was. "Oh, this is perfect." Scarlet Rose was live streaming now, her phone capturing every moment. "Guys, you're watching history, the wedding where the best man got the real prize." She wasn't wrong. As Curtis stood there, surrounded by new allies and unexpected friends, he realized something. Wesley had done him a favor. By stealing Amber, he'd cleared the path for something better. "Speech!" someone called out. "Best man speech!" Curtis looked around the room, federal agents mixing with socialites, criminals being led away in handcuffs, a wedding transformed into a celebration of justice. He raised his glass. "To Wesley Danes," he began, causing a surprised murmur. "My cousin who taught me valuable lessons. That family isn't about blood, it's about loyalty. That sometimes losing something good leads to finding something great. And most importantly," he paused, making eye contact with Aurora, "that the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's living so well they destroy themselves trying to keep up." The room erupted. Even the federal agents applauded. Someone had connected their phone to the sound system, and music filled the space, not the wedding playlist Wesley had chosen, but something better. Real. Honest. "Dance with me," Aurora said, pulling Curtis onto the floor. "I don't really—" "Shut up and move." They swayed together while Henry's team served cake and Scarlett broadcast everything to her million followers. Through the windows, the last police car pulled away, taking the remnants of Wesley's empire with it. "You know," Aurora said, her head on Curtis's shoulder, "for a marine biologist, you make a pretty good criminal mastermind." "I had help. The best help. Flattery will get you everywhere, Dr. Fox." "Good, because I have a question." She pulled back to look at him. "Already? We've known each other for 3 weeks." "Not that kind of question," Curtis laughed. "I was wondering if you'd like to go diving tomorrow. I know a spot where the hammerheads gather. Thought maybe you'd like to see what I do when I'm not destroying weddings." Aurora's smile lit up the room better than any wedding decorations could have. "It's a date." They danced as the sun set over Biscayne Bay, painting the sky in shades of justice and new beginnings. Somewhere across the city, Wesley Danes sat in a federal holding cell, probably still in his ruined tuxedo. Amber was learning what happened when you signed documents without reading them. Victor Volkov was discovering that Miami's waters held more predators than just sharks. But in the reception hall of a wedding that never was, Curtis Fox celebrated the best day of his life. He'd lost a fiancée, exposed a cousin, and found something he hadn't even known he was looking for. Revenge, served at exactly the right temperature, with a champagne chaser and a side of new love. Wesley had been right about one thing: it really was a memorable wedding. Just not the way he'd planned. 6 months later, Curtis stood on the deck of the research vessel, Second Chances, watching the sunrise paint the Caribbean in shades of gold and possibility. The 150-foot yacht had been Xavier's wedding gift, though, whose wedding remained an ongoing joke since the only one they'd attended had ended in federal arrests. "Coffee's ready," Aurora called from the bridge, her voice carrying over the intercom. "And Henry's making those ridiculous French things you like." Curtis smiled, making his way inside where his team had gathered for their morning briefing. The crew of Second Chances was small but exceptional: Aurora as pilot and operations director, Henry as chef and morale officer — he'd taken a sabbatical from his restaurant — and 3 graduate students who jumped at the chance to work with the newly famous Dr. Curtis Fox. "All right, people," Curtis addressed the group, accepting coffee from Aurora with a grateful kiss. "Today we're tagging great whites off Guadalupe. Emma, you're on underwater cameras. Marcus, drone duty. Sophia, you're with me in the cage." "Actually," Aurora interrupted, "slight change of plans. We just got a distress call. Yacht taking on water about 40 miles northeast. Coast Guard's requesting assistance." Curtis didn't hesitate. "Change course. Research can wait." This was their new life-part research vessel, part rescue operation. In 6 months, they'd saved 17 people from various maritime disasters, while also tagging over 300 sharks. The Ocean Guardians, as media had dubbed them, were becoming legends in both scientific and sailing communities. As Aurora flew their helicopter toward the distressed yacht, Curtis couldn't help but reflect on how much had changed. His research had advanced more in 6 months than in the previous 5 years. The Vega Foundation's funding had opened doors he'd never imagined. 3 major publications, a National Geographic documentary in production, and invitations to speak at conferences worldwide. But the sweetest victory had come 2 months ago, delivered by Scarlet Rose via Instagram Live. "Breaking news, gossip lovers," she'd announced to her 2 million followers. "Wesley Danes just got sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. Plus, get this, he has to pay back everyone he scammed, including his ex-wife." The video had shown Wesley in an orange jumpsuit, his perfect hair now a mess, his swagger replaced by the shuffle of ankle chains. He'd aged a decade in 6 months, the golden boy revealed as fool's gold. Amber's fate had been gentler but no less transformative: probation, community service, and the complete loss of her influencer empire. Last Curtis heard, she was working at a marine rescue center in the Keys, ironically learning to love the ocean she'd once used as a backdrop. Her Instagram, once boasting 2 million followers, now had 30,000 people genuinely interested in sea turtle rehabilitation. "There," Aurora's voice crackled through Curtis's headset. 2 o'clock, about 3 miles out. The yacht in distress was a 60-footer, listing badly to starboard. Curtis could see people clustered on the deck, waving frantically. Aurora executed a perfect hover while Curtis and Marcus fast-roped down. The rescue took 2 hours, a blown through-hull fitting that Henry somehow patched with kitchen supplies and marine epoxy. They saved the yacht, the family aboard, and even their terrified cat. "You're the shark guy!" the yacht owner exclaimed as they prepared to leave. "From that viral wedding video! Man, that was epic! Your cousin had it coming!" Curtis had learned to smile and nod when people brought it up. The wedding disaster had become Miami legend. Retold in bars and boardrooms across the city, he'd become inadvertently famous the marine biologist who'd used shark hunting tactics to take down a predator on land. Back on Second Chances, they finally made it to their research site. Curtis descended in the cage with Sophia, the 22-year-old grad student who reminded him of himself at that age: passionate, dedicated, slightly reckless. "Dr. Fox," she said through the comm system, "great white approaching from your 6. Curtis turned slowly, coming face to face with 15 feet of evolutionary perfection. The shark circled the cage with ancient grace, its black eye studying them with what almost seemed like intelligence. Beautiful, Curtis breathed, preparing the tagging pole. Simply beautiful. The tag attached cleanly, and the shark glided away, now part of their growing database. Each animal tracked, each data point collected, brought them closer to understanding these magnificent predators. That evening, as the sun set over calm seas, the crew gathered on deck for Henry's latest culinary masterpiece. The chef had somehow created a 5-course meal in a galley the size of most people's bathrooms. "A toast," Aurora proposed, raising her wine glass. "To 6 months of success." "To new horizons," Curtis added, pulling her close. "To the wedding that started it all," Henry laughed. "Still the best catering gig I ever worked, even if half the guests got arrested." They drank, laughed, shared stories. Marcus talked about using their drone footage for his thesis. Emma showed off her latest underwater photography. Sophia peppered Curtis with questions about shark behavior, her enthusiasm infectious. "Oh, I almost forgot," Aurora said, producing an envelope. "This came to the Miami office yesterday." Curtis recognized the handwriting immediately. Wesley. He'd written several times from prison, letters Curtis had burned unread, but this one felt different. He opened it, scanning the contents while everyone waited. "Well?" Henry demanded. "What does the jailbird want?" Curtis read aloud. "Curtis, I know you won't forgive me, and I'm not asking you to, but I wanted you to know that I testified against Victor's entire organization. 53 people are going to prison because of my testimony. I know it doesn't make up for what I did, but maybe it's a start. Also, that girl Scarlett, she visits sometimes. Thinks she can save me. Maybe she's right. Maybe sharks can change their stripes, or whatever sharks have. You'd know better than me. Take care of Amber if you can. She writes me too, says she's sorry. Means it this time. Your cousin, Wesley." Silence fell over the deck. Finally, Emma spoke. "Sharks don't have stripes. They have dermal denticles." Everyone laughed, breaking the tension. Curtis crumpled the letter, tossing it overboard. The ocean swallowed it without a trace. "Some sharks can change," he said finally. "They can evolve, adapt, but they're still sharks. Wesley's exactly where he belongs." "Speaking of belonging," Aurora said, her voice carrying a note Curtis had learned to recognize. "I have news." Everyone turned to her expectantly. "I'm pregnant." The explosion of joy nearly capsized the boat. Henry was already planning menus for the baby shower. The grad students were taking bets on names. Curtis stood frozen, staring at the woman who'd saved him in every way a person could be saved. "Really?" was all he managed. "Really?" She kissed him, tasting like wine and future. "Turns out our little rescue operation created something new." Curtis placed his hand on her still flat stomach, thinking about cycles and currents, about predators and prey, about how sometimes losing everything led to gaining the world. "What should we name it?" he asked. "If it's a girl, Marina, like we always said. And if it's a boy?" Aurora grinned. "Anything but Wesley." They laughed until their sides hurt, there on the deck of their research vessel, surrounded by friends who'd become family. Somewhere below, sharks patrolled ancient territories, following patterns older than memory. Somewhere in Miami, Wesley sat in a cell he'd earned. Somewhere in the Keys, Amber was learning that influence meant more than followers. But here on Second Chances, Curtis Fox had found everything Wesley had tried to steal and more: a purpose, a partner, a future that looked nothing like the past he'd planned, but everything like the life he'd needed. The ocean held many predators. Curtis had learned to swim with all of them. And finally, beautifully, he was home. The Great Barrier Reef stretched beneath them like an underwater cathedral, 2,000 kilometers of living architecture that made humanity's greatest achievements look like sandcastles. Curtis checked his dive computer one final time, perfect conditions for what would either be the best or most insane idea he'd ever had. "You sure about this?" Aurora asked through the underwater comm system, her voice tinged with amusement. "Most people just go to churches." "Most people aren't us," Curtis replied, adjusting his specially modified tuxedo wetsuit. Henry had outdone himself with the design somehow making formal wear that could withstand 40 feet of salt water. Around them, the wedding party descended in a choreographed ballet. Henry in his chef's whites, waterproofed, naturally, Sophia and the research team in matching blue suits, and Xavier Vega looking dignified even with a regulator in his mouth. Scarlet Rose operated an underwater camera rig that probably cost more than most cars, broadcasting the ceremony live to her 5 million followers. "Places, everyone!" The underwater minister, yes, that was a real job in Australia, gestured for positions. Aurora glided toward him in her custom wedding dress wetsuit, white neoprene with actual pearl accents that caught the filtered sunlight. She'd never looked more beautiful, Curtis thought, even with a mask covering half her face. A shadow passed overhead, then another. The wedding guests had arrived. Holy. Marcus's voice crackled through everyone's comms. "Are those, whale sharks?" Curtis confirmed, watching the gentle giants circle their ceremony site. "Turns out if you coordinate with their feeding patterns and pick the right location." "You planned this," Aurora accused, but he could hear her smile. "You absolute madman! You scheduled our wedding around whale-shark migration patterns." "Guilty," Curtis admitted. "Best man's prerogative. Oh wait, that's me too." The ceremony began, perhaps the strangest in maritime history. The minister spoke through waterproof comms while 30-foot whale sharks provided a living backdrop. Reef fish darted between the wedding party like confetti. A curious sea turtle investigated Henry's boutonniere. "Do you, Curtis Fox, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, in sickness and in health, in calm seas and rough waters, for as long as you both shall dive?" "I do," Curtis said, the words bubbling up with his exhaled air. "And do you, Aurora Vega, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this depth forward, whether at sea level or 40 feet under?" "I do," Aurora replied, reaching for his hand. "Then by the power vested in me by the Commonwealth of Australia and the International Association of Underwater Ministers, yes, that's real. I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride, though I recommend waiting until you surface." They ascended slowly, properly, following all decompression protocols because even love couldn't prevent the bends. The surface exploded with cheers from the support boat where non-diving guests waited, including a very pregnant woman who looked suspiciously like. "Is that Amber?" Aurora asked, pulling off her mask. Indeed it was. Curtis had invited her at the last minute, a gesture of closure. She stood apart from the others, cradling her belly, wearing a simple sundress instead of designer labels. "Congratulations," she called out as they climbed aboard. "That was incredible." "Thanks for coming," Curtis said, meaning it. Time and consequences had humbled Amber, carved away the superficial to reveal someone who might have been worth knowing all along. Wouldn't miss it. Besides, she gestured to her belly, little Wesley needs to see what a real wedding looks like. "You named it Wesley." Aurora couldn't hide her shock. "God, no," Amber laughed. "That's just what I call him during the morning sickness. His real name's going to be James, after my grandfather, the only honest man I knew growing up." The reception happened right there on the boat, anchored above the reef. Henry had somehow prepared a feast in the galley, including a wedding cake shaped like a hammerhead shark. Xavier gave a toast that brought tears and laughter in equal measure. Even the crew of Second Chances, now numbering 12 researchers and rescue specialists, shared stories of Curtis and Aurora's adventures. "Remember the drug runners?" Emma laughed. "Aurora hovering the chopper while Curtis literally jumped onto their boat? Or the time they saved those idiots who tried to pet a tiger shark," Marcus added. "Curtis dove in without thinking, Aurora right behind him." "My personal favorite," Henry interjected, "was when they discovered that new species off Costa Rica. Named it after their daughter before she was even born." All eyes turned to the corner where Marina Fox, 8 months old, slept in her custom life jacket. She'd been on boats since she was 2 weeks old, in the water since 3 months. The youngest ocean guardian, Xavier called her. "Speaking of which," Scarlet Rose announced, still live streaming, "this wedding's already trending worldwide. Marine biologist marries pilot underwater with whale sharks. You two just broke the internet, again." "At least this time no one got arrested," Curtis pointed out. "The day's still young," Aurora teased. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the coral sea in shades of amber and gold, Curtis found himself at the bow with Aurora. Marina had woken and was gurgling happily in her mother's arms, reaching for the spray of passing waves. "No regrets?" Aurora asked. "You could have had a normal life, regular job, house in the suburbs, wife who didn't drag you into helicopter rescues." Curtis thought about it. In another timeline, maybe he'd reconciled with Amber, lived that suburban dream. Never met Aurora, never saved those 17 people, never discovered 3 new species or revolutionized shark tracking technology. Never felt this complete. "Wesley did me a favor," he said finally. "He showed me that the life I thought I wanted was just a cage with nice bars. This?" He gestured at the ocean, their boat, their daughter, their crew-turned family. "This is living." A notification pinged on his satellite phone. Curtis usually ignored them during personal time, but the sender caught his eye. The Nobel Committee. "What is it?" Aurora asked, noticing his expression. "They want to nominate our coral restoration project for the Environmental Peace Prize," Curtis said, still processing. "Our work after the hurricane last year." Aurora kissed him, Marina squealing between them. "My husband, the Nobel nominee, who also happens to look amazing in a wetsuit tuxedo." "Hey, Curtis," Sophia called out. "There's a hammerhead off the starboard side." Of course there was. Curtis smiled, remembering that first dive when Amber had filmed from above, bored and disconnected from the world below. Now he had a partner who dove beside him, who understood that the ocean wasn't just his workplace but his calling. "Want to get our wedding guests?" Aurora asked, already reaching for her gear. "Dr. and Dr. Fox's first official dive," Curtis agreed. "Marina stays with Henry? Already on it." The chef appeared, scooping up the baby with practiced ease. "Come to Uncle Henry, little fish. Let's teach you about proper knife skills. She's 8 months old. Never too early to learn julienne." They dove again as the sun touched the horizon, just the two of them and the hammerhead in the fading light. The shark circled them with lazy curiosity, perhaps recognizing Curtis from their hundreds of previous encounters. "I love you," Aurora's voice came through the calm, soft and certain. "I love you too," Curtis replied, watching the hammerhead glide past. "Thank you for saving me." "Which time?" she laughed. "From the bends? From Wesley? From yourself?" "All of it," he said. "Every rescue." They surfaced to find their wedding guests toasting the sunset, Marina laughing at something Henry was doing with a spatula. The Great Barrier Reef stretched endlessly in all directions, teeming with life above and below. Somewhere in a Miami prison, Wesley Danes was probably eating institutional food and regretting every choice that led him there. His letters had stopped coming after Curtis ignored the third one. Scarlett still visited him, apparently, convinced she could rehabilitate a human shark. Maybe she could. Redemption was possible for everyone, Curtis supposed. But it wasn't his concern anymore. His concern was the grant proposal due Monday for expanded rescue operations. The paper on shark migration patterns that would reshape marine conservation, teaching Marina to swim before she could properly walk, growing old with Aurora on boats and in helicopters, saving lives and species in equal measure. "Hey," Amber approached as they toweled off. "Before I go, thank you for inviting me, for showing me what real love looks like. I needed to see it." "Find your own ocean," Curtis told her. "Stop swimming in other people's shallows." She nodded, understanding. "Maybe I will. That Marine Rescue Center in Marathon is hiring full-time. Might be nice to do something that matters." As she left, Curtis felt the last weight of the past lift away. Everyone was where they belonged. Even Wesley, in his way, had found his place in the ecosystem as a cautionary tale and federal witness. "Family photo," Scarlett announced. "Everyone in." They gathered at the stern, Curtis and Aurora in their wedding wetsuits, Marina in Henry's arms, the entire Ocean Guardians crew crowding into frame. Scarlett set the timer and ran to join them, the camera capturing a moment of perfect happiness against the painted sky. "To the Fox family!" Xavier boomed. "May your nets always be full and your seas always be calm." "To second chances," Henry added. "To Ocean Guardians," the crew chorused. Curtis looked at his wife, his daughter, his chosen family, his life's work spread out before him in an endless blue horizon. "To swimming with sharks," he said quietly, "the real ones and the metaphorical ones, and knowing the difference." Aurora kissed him as the flash went off. Marina shrieked with joy, and somewhere below, the ocean's apex predators continued their eternal dance. The wedding was over. The marriage, the adventure, the partnership. The love story that had risen from the ashes of betrayal was just beginning. And in the vast Pacific, under stars that had witnessed countless love stories and infinitely more betrayals, Curtis Fox finally understood the truth. Sometimes the best revenge really was a life well lived. Even the sharks knew that. The end. This story isn't just about cheating, it's a brutal reminder that betrayal from those closest to you cuts the deepest. But what struck me most was how Curtis turned pain into precision, revenge into redemption, proving that intelligence and self-respect are deadlier than rage. Some might say he went too far, but honestly, didn't they deserve every second of it?